Cheers. Yeah. Cheers. It's been a long time coming, mate.
It has.
Well, Cootsy has been at me for a while to get you in here and have a chat to you. But I think I've always been interested anyhow, especially when you crossed over into the space of psychology. So let's I guess, start with a little bit of origin about yourself, mate. Like, what's your journey with, because it was PT, essentially, like probably from a professional standpoint, and you're probably doing a lot of psychology when you were a PT. But give us a bit of the story, mate. Like, how did it all start?
Yeah, it is interesting, and I guess to me, the course, or when you start to study psychology or counselling. So I was actually counselling within the School of Applied Psychology. So there's only a small difference in the content until you get a little bit later into your degree. So largely they're following a very similar path until you sort of get until the real meaty bits at the end of the degree.
Right.
But my first trade was actually in harness racing. So I was actually training horses when I was in primary school for my uncle.
Where was that at?
So that was on the north side of Brizzy in Bridgeman Downs.
Yeah, right.
So when I reflect on that experience, there was actually already both of those elements of physical conditioning and listening happening at the same time.
Right.
So you can imagine with an animal, we don't have that same ability to use language the way we're used to. So what we're constantly looking for while we're conditioning these big 500, 600 kilo athletes is other signs, that they're talking to you.
Right.
So you learn to use, your eyes, your ears, your hands, and all of those things as well. So you use your other senses at the same time to try and gauge where they're at and sort of, just get a feeling for whether they're happy or enjoying their work or whether there's a problem somewhere. So that for me, I think, having that experience as a kid was really probably one of those real signature moments that when I reflect, makes me realise that I've been cultivating skills, since I was single digits.
How long did you do that for? 16?
It's been in the family since I was born.
Right.
So, I've got photos of me being on my uncle's property when I was about 3 or 4.
Right. Where's your ancestors? Like, where's your mob from? Like, are they not just North Brisbane, or would you go out west, out that way?
Yeah. So, Granddad came from out west.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, they are that sort of Brisbane area, north side of Brisbane, and there's a lot of them still there now. So they're still training horses. They're still, Dad was still breeding and racing. And
that's where your interest comes from with punting, mate.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I'm much better with bloodlines than I am with punting.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's my nan, man. Far out. She was into that. She'd listen to the horse races like every day, and she'd be betting. She'd be looking at the papers. She'd be going to listen to the radio, and she'd know all of the bloody jockeys, and it was.
It's an art.
It is an art,
and there's a lot of study that goes into it.
Is it a growing art, do you think, or is it sort of dying off a bit?
Oh no,
or industry, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely growing. If you go along to, thoroughbred, racing for sure, harness racing, maybe not quite as much.
Yeah.
And I think it is all about, the dollar.
Yeah.
So, young males represent the largest cohort, and interestingly, adolescent Australian males represent the biggest punters in the world.
Wow.
So, which is an interesting statistic, isn't it?
Yeah. That is.
So, yeah, and they'll bet on anything. So they're not just betting on horses, they're betting on the footy, they're betting on the UFC, they're betting on you name it.
Anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they can make it even harder so that magic number at the end of a multi or something looks even bigger, then, that's even more exciting, isn't it?
It is. So after, so young teens doing that, North Brizzy, then where were you?
So we came down to the coast. So Dad took over a business down here on the Gold Coast, I think when I was 15 or thereabouts. And, it's funny how things just don't leave you.
Yep.
So I remember riding my bike through the Gold Coast Turf Club stables on the way to Aquinas College to go to school, just so I could smell them.
Yeah, right.
So, it was just this, I just missed being around them.
Nostalgic anchor, just brought you back.
Yeah. And you know how you smell something and, memories come back of, whether it's your nan or, whatever. That was just one of those smells that I didn't want to let go. So,
scent is huge like that. I guess same with listening to a song or something, song is the same.
Totally.
But scent, I find, is... it just hits you, it just takes you there instantly.
And it makes you realise too how powerful senses are, right?
100%.
So these things that we're given to experience the world.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I spoke about my nan earlier when her brother passed away, my great uncle.
Sorry, is this mum or dad's side?
Dad's side.
Yeah.
And when I went down to my great uncle Harold's funeral, so there's now one of my nan's siblings, there's only one left, I believe, my auntie Coral. And gosh, when my younger brother and Aaron and I, we walked up to her and just gave her a hug, the smell, the voice, and oh man, just instantly, just took us both back there, and we were just holding on to her, just thinking, oh my God, it just felt like our nan again, and it was amazing. But that the smell and just her voice, you have similarities in your voice, like I definitely do with my siblings, and even my dad, I can hear my dad in my voice when I laugh or when I sneeze, and all those little idiosyncratic things I do. You can just hear it, and gosh, when we were there with her, it was. God, it just instantly took us back. It was amazing. It was so good.
And that actually reminds me as well, we had just a brief chat about trauma.
Yes.
So, exactly the same thing. So how is it that those things remain an impact, right?
Right.
It's exactly the same, isn't it? Doesn't matter whether they're fond memories or terrible memories.
It's just the sensory experience.
So you've got all of those things that contribute as well.
Okay, you just went straight into it, mate. Let's...
Ta-da!
Okay, so trauma. Yeah, that to me, I do have a genuine interest and curiosity in, I think, all things psychology. Like a lot of people now doing this new sort of podcasting, like what's it about? And that's sort of taking shape, I think, as we're doing it, and just sort of understanding what you genuinely have an interest in. But I know when I listen to podcasts or read books and all those types of things like mindset, psychology, it's enormous. And that was one of the topics. I sort of feel like I'm jumping ahead. I want to give you... Let's come back. Let's come back to this trauma. So, but come back into... Let's get there. So after coming to the Gold Coast, what then?
So finished my schooling at Aquinas.
Yep.
Went into the family business and realised very soon after that, it wasn't enough for me. And, when I say enough, at the time, I already realised, because I had been engaged, so closely with the horse experience. And, if you go and spend any time with somebody who's working with these animals and see the love and what they give them, in order for them to then want to give, their maximum effort every time they step out, it can actually, for me, that was, it was a bit of a discovery. So what I realised is I needed to be involved in something where I was making a contribution to the lives of others.
Right.
So, having to care for these, these beasts and wholly and solely feed them, wash them, rug them, brush them, everything, just give them absolutely everything, care for them better than, like a lot of people are cared for. I just realised that I wasn't going to be happy unless I was doing something that I could sort of put my heart into, and I could show that care, that love and that concern. And so because I've always been a bit of a sporty spice, it was necessary for me to sort of continue moving, in that sort of sporty vein, just because I know how much it's given me.
Yes.
And just being fit and healthy and having your body functioning properly helps your head function properly, and all of these other bits and pieces. There's that social connection there as well.
Yep.
So there really is a world that sort of lives in and around, living a healthy lifestyle. So that was sort of my gift, and that's where I moved into. So in 1991 in Sydney, we went down there very soon after I'd finished school. So the whole family moved down, and I was working in a gym in Manly. So that's where I started. So I just started, working in reception, did some, preliminary courses.
How old were you?
I was 20, 21.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's like, what year?
A few years ago.
yeah, that's right.
So, we're talking, so I'm 54 this year, so we're talking 33, give or take 33 years ago.
Wow. That would have sort of been almost ahead of the boom, the PT boom, like.
I remember walking into a class there, and we're talking Sydney, not Brisbane or the Gold Coast or whatever, and it was big. So it was happening in Sydney. The PT thing hadn't really happened,
right?
But it was going to.
Yeah, God, that was a boom in itself, wasn't it?
Correct.
In an industry, among an industry, it was. I just remember it here being advertised, and it felt like everyone was like, "Oh, I'm going to go do a PT course."
Correct.
And and then you just have the Gold Coast now. It's the bloody mecca of health and fitness, which, not complaining, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But okay, so Manly. So and then when did you move up here?
And then I left the family back down there. I just missed. There was something about the coast that just kept pulling me back.
Yeah.
And I have heard other people talk about it as well. Right. For me, the Gold Coast just has a very unique feel about it.
Yeah.
So I was in Manly, Sydney. I was in North Sydney. These were lovely areas, and there was the beach and there was the city and all of those things. But I actually found it quite lonely. There was something that was really lonely for me about Sydney, and even when I had friends, it just didn't fit.
Right. Did you have family down there?
Yeah.
You did.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That is interesting.
So back up to the coast, and went into and had a stint in hospitality, like a lot of people here on the coast do.
Yeah.
So that was great as well, because that serving that need within me to look after people and care for people.
Yeah.
So I found I had a real knack for that, and ended up working and running in a couple of really nice places, which was a bit of fun. But then I was also doing some graveyard shifts at the local gym in Broadbeach. It was a 24-hour gym.
Ah, yeah. What was that gym?
Healthworks.
Healthworks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just never left.
Right.
And I obviously just kept on training myself and enjoying that. I had a fit bunch of friends that we were working with, and I was enjoyed the hospitality, still, dabbling in the gym. But then I think it was actually the birth of my son,
right.
Jax,
Yeah.
in 97, that sort of made me realise, okay, listen, there's more than me to look after now.
Yep.
I need to sort of start thinking about, sort of really digging some deep holes somewhere, and whether that was hospitality or whether that was going back to being in health and fitness. And I thought I probably have more control over my time,
Yep.
and that would allow me to spend more time
Yep.
with him,
Yep.
and Ronnie, my wife at the time. So it was a bit of a sort of a no-brainer there, really. I was involved in a couple of offers on buying a couple of restaurants in partnership, and they fell through for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So to me, that was sort of quite serendipitous, really.
Yeah.
I just started my own PT business. Started in the garage, and after failing for a couple of years and handing out thousands and thousands of flyers, I thought to myself, I just need to go and really learn from somebody who's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a really successful lady down in Burleigh. Her name was Amanda, and I started training with one of her trainers once a week, and I was just watching everything that they were doing in the gym. There was nothing that was really different going on, but as far as marketing and all that sort of stuff was going, I had to become a scholar, and go back to school, be a student. in marketing. And once, I sort of got onto a couple of the things that they were doing, I had an instant response and got myself a shop, and I've been there for 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Far out. Yeah. And that's I never did personal training, but I was a sports masseuse for many years. And so I had this experience where you'd have this one-on-one connection with a client, quite intimate, all above board and professional.
Yeah, of course.
But they open up so much, and you do become, you have to draw that line because, gosh, I was a therapist, like a psychologist, or just listening to people, and they just tell you everything and everything. So then you crossed out of the health and, well, not health and fitness, but the PT sector into psychology. Is that what you call it?
Absolutely. So I did my counselling degree in Griffith School of Applied Psychology.
Right.
Yep. And so I've taught within that school as well.
Yeah.
And teaching within the psychology cohort, the School of Applied Psychology.
Cool.
So the what was I going to say? I think along the way as well. So I had the educational business as well.
Yes.
So I was sort of teaching and sort of having to break things down. So this was within the fitness industry.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that with my mate Vince.
Padmasters.
And that was the pad work. Yep, the pad work accreditation.
Cool.
So being in that position where I had to dissect and create a curriculum meant that I was having to break things down and then sort of, present this to people so that they had a deeper understanding of what it is they were doing.
Yeah.
So this was actually, in a way as well, sort of paving the way for me thinking in different ways about, the things I'm doing and the way that I'm connecting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, when you're working one-on-one with people, and you're quiet in a massage room generally, right?
Yeah.
They might sort of go off on tangents, but isn't it amazing how sometimes just that act of them getting something out all of a sudden makes them feel better?
So what is that?
I actually think it's this act of releasing and allowing the flow of energy.
Right.
So you know how often people will say to you, that's a really good question, listen mate, we don't want to hear about that, just shove that inside and forget that you ever said that or mentioned it or whatever. I don't want to hear anything about that again.
Yeah.
So a lot of us guys will have that experience with the men in our life.
Right.
Or maybe even, just past generations where some things are left better unsaid.
Yes.
Yes, or let bygones be bygones.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But really what we're doing is we're stopping people from expressing and processing and allowing the flow.
Yes.
So how do we process? There's an awful lot of thought, but sometimes, part of that process is also tears.
Yes.
Part of that process is, these things that we use, language, communication.
Right.
What are songwriters doing?
Expressing.
And processing, right?
Yes.
Some of the best albums that we'll ever hear will be, heartache or celebration, but there's this processing that goes on, and look at the beauty that comes from it. Even though it might be pain, that they're processing, there's this ability and there's this wonderful product that comes at the end of it. So I think, part of this, just allowing it to flow, allowing, that to come, and not have anybody interrupt or tell you that it shouldn't be, is part of that healing, part of that process of healing.
It's really two things where my head was going then was, from a business point of view, I know when in sales, if I'm dealing with a prospect and they don't talk, they don't express, they don't give me any physiology, they give me nothing. It's so hard for me to offer them a solution or to just connect with them in general, to help them with anything. So how because gosh, there must be a lot of people that don't express and don't give you anything. How do you deal with someone in that instance where they don't give you anything?
Well, I actually think that it's a matter of staying present and not letting it go. So it's actually a matter of sitting there and just saying, so let's just say in this instance that you're that person that's being quiet with me.
Yes.
It's Blake, I just want to sort of tell you what I'm seeing at the moment, and what I'm seeing at the moment is that I'm really not getting anything from you.
Yes.
Is there something that I've done, or, is there something I'm not saying?
Yeah.
That's affecting, what's happening here. But just being brave enough to sort of sit there and deal with it.
Yeah.
Rather than, wait until later and go, fucking hell, man, I couldn't get anything out of him.
Yeah.
But it's like just be able to sit there in the moment.
Yeah.
And give it a go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you.
Just be present and just say, is it just me, or am I talking to myself, or have I said something wrong? Is there something about what I'm wearing? What is it?
I guess too, though, in the act of counselling someone, they're probably there for the reason where they want change. Yeah, like, so, do you understand what I'm saying? So, like, if someone's coming to you, and you're the therapist, they're sitting with you for a purpose, and that purpose would be to get better.
Yeah.
And if they were there and not speaking to you, then there's context for you to say, just want to give you a bit of an observation. Like, but what about people that there isn't that professional counselling type setting or context, and where you might want them to express, but they don't feel comfortable to express. Are we allowed to talk about this? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Was I giving you a look?
No. I'm just, no. So, but like in that setting where you probably know someone quite well, and you're not getting anything from them to where they're expressing themselves, for you to be able to connect and help or whatever it is. What would you say in that instance?
I don't think it would be actually much different.
Right.
So the one thing that I do know, and this is why it's really, really good to use somebody that you don't necessarily know on a personal level. So this is why somebody who's not a stakeholder in your life is a good person to talk to.
Right.
Because they don't have these same barriers.
Right.
Whereas when you love somebody, and you really care about them, and you know that something's going to hurt them, and you know that there could be side effects to this, not only for you but also for the way that your kids are living, and there's a flow-on effect, right?
Yes.
But it's just one of those instances where communication is just always key.
Yes.
If you really value the relationship, and if you really value, the person in front of you, and it's really, really important to you, then my question is always, well, isn't it worth being open? Isn't it worth being honest?
Yes.
Isn't it worth, sharing, whatever you can? And if you feel uncomfortable in that moment, also just say that.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
What about, this is an interesting one, and these are all sort of experiences that I'm talking about freely, like, and there's people that are close to me, whether it's friends and family, that I'm sort of like dialing into these different situations with, that, for whatever reason, I haven't been able to sort of figure it out, but substance. So in order to feel something and express yourself and communicate, all those things, like something that I've seen when people are on substance, whether it's drugs or alcohol, it inhibits those feelings to do that, and almost gives them like they become numb, and that connection that you probably could usually have, it's usually not usually, but it can sometimes not be there. Do you know what I'm saying there?
Like, I think I do.
How do you like, so with substance, like how is that treated? That must be a tricky one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where, so are you talking about somebody who's having a problem with a substance, or are you just talking about somebody who's on something just in the moment, and all of a sudden there's all of these, words coming out of them, and it's like a random event?
I'd probably say like a numbing type medication.
Okay, so you're talking about somebody who's, perhaps, developing a habit of some description.
Sure. Due
to something, that maybe they don't know, and not everybody else knows is going on, right?
Yeah.
The I guess it, once again it's a case of looking around that person and seeing what's going on. So what are the things that are happening around them? So I think so often, we'll want to look inside somebody and say that there's something wrong with them. And part of the counselling experience is actually looking around them and seeing what's happening around them. So what are these influences? What are the things that are happening as a result of, them taking this? So, is it that they're missing work? Is it that their relationships are disappearing? What are they just disengaging altogether? Yeah, all of these sorts of things. So I think, if you want to draw somebody's attention to something, perhaps that's a gentle way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, look at their environment. I actually never thought that that's what happens, but it makes complete sense.
Yeah, there's something happening, right? So, and this is one of the fundamentals. And, there's a lot of psychologists out there that are really good counsellors, but, they're a different, they're generally they're a different trade.
Right.
But a counsellor, that's one of the simplest ways. So, one of my, my co-founder with Walk and Talk, Dr. Deb, she said to me one time, she said, when you go for a psychological assessment, generally speaking, what they're going to try and find is what's wrong with you. Yes? So you'll present with symptoms and it's your problem. Yes? Whereas when you come and see a counsellor, we're looking to find out what's going on around you that's the cause. Does that make sense?
It does, mate. Absolutely. It's funny, we had a podcast last week with a great friend and author. He's Ben, I don't know if you've met Ben Saravia. Amazing speaker, mate, far out. But he's got a genuine interest in men's health. Right. And he found that, and we started to talk about the importance of community and the people around you. And he started to just bring up a couple of stats. And yeah, he went into one of the first signs of losing contact with your tribe was sleep and the importance of sleep and how the lack of sleep, and especially to someone in men when they, I'm paraphrasing what he's saying here, but like even to the point of committing suicide, the point of committing suicide prior to that and their lack of sleep that's been recorded or documented is unbelievable. So he went into talking about disconnection from tribe, which can even mean people at work, and it's just disconnection in general, I think, from those people around you. And again, talking about it now, it's that outer environment that you're assessing as well, which 100%, it's everything. Like hanging, you are who you hang out with, mate. That is.
Yeah, and that's a choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. To an extent, like you look at probably children. Like that's a tough one. Like you are who you hang out with, and that's a choice. Like you look at kids that are born into a world where they probably don't have
correct
certain parents that love them and whatnot, and that's an interesting one.
Yeah, and yeah, you're absolutely right. The nature versus nurture and all of those things as well. But it highlights the importance, doesn't it, of that role?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And also being part of that tribe.
Yes.
So, you don't have to have kids to have an influence on, the children that are close to you. And I think that's the beautiful thing about, uncles and aunts and grandparents and, they don't have to be that primary carer in order to have a really positive influence.
Yes.
So, I think, and it can be neighbours, it can be, all sorts of other things. I think, it's sort of a bit of a shame in a way. I think at times we've sort of lost a little bit of the innocence of, giving and caring in that trust that used to be around.
Yep.
I'm sure you remember similar things as well, but I remember running around the neighbourhood from 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 in the evening, barefoot, no shirt on, and I'd just be running from house to house, trying to find somebody to play with. Yeah. Your kids don't do that anymore.
No.
So, and we wouldn't trust them to.
Yes, that's so true. So true. It's almost like we've become, there's like a layer of insulation we have now with our phone, with connection with people, that we feel we don't have to conform or be polite, or we can just sort of, I don't want to answer that text now, or yeah, maybe I will, or whatever. Like we are insulated to the normal, human experience, I guess.
And
we didn't have that before.
It's a dichotomy because we have this, we've never been more connected, and yet somehow we're showing signs that we've never been more disconnected. People talk about loneliness, when we've got absolutely every resource available to us to not be.
Yes. It's so interesting. Like, and even like how old's it's Jax?
Yeah,
Jackson.
Jaxon, yeah.
Yeah.
Jax is 27.
He's 27.
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, so he's come through an interesting time where he was probably pretty young. Like, what social media and whatnot's been around for probably a good, was it 10 years or so now? It would be. So he was probably right in his teens when social media was hitting, and it's something I'm sure you as a father as well. The simple things like shaking someone's hand, looking them in the eye, and acknowledging manners, simple manners and things like that. That's something that we're just coming through now with our kids, sort of 10 and 7. But what I guess, what sort of, did you see any sort of effect with Jackson, social media? Like, how did you manage sort of him coming through that into a young man? Like,
I'm just smiling because I'm remembering this story of Cootsy walking into your house.
Yes.
And him telling me when he came back that, what's your young fella's name? Teal.
Yeah.
Coming up to him and saying, "So how you going, big fella?"
That's so important, mate. The simple things, the simple things are just so important. And it's something as simple as that. I remember that, like when I was young, shake his hand, look him in the eye, squeeze his hand, like all those simple little things. Thank you. Yes, and it's an interesting minefield now that no one really has any idea of what the outcome's going to be with kids because it's a lot of it's new. It's moving so fast. So there's...
I think that one of the things that I loved about what you said early, and I think there's actually a really simple solution to a lot of things.
Yes.
And I think it is remaining present.
Right.
So, and when I say present, I mean, you and I are here having a conversation, our phones are down, our notifications are turned off. I think if we can actually get people to remain more present when there's actually somebody there to engage with,
yes,
then we solve an awful lot of problems.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, loneliness, relationships, communication, depth of connection.
Yep.
All of these different things. I think it's actually really, really simple.
Yeah.
To live a healthy life and for people to develop in a healthy way.
Yes.
If we can actually just get them to be present.
Bang on, man. As a dad and as a business owner, that was one commitment I committed to being present. No matter like what was fucking burning down around me as a business owner and everything else. And it happens. But it sort of was in a sense when Chloe was young and I was just like, fuck, I can't control any of that. But I'm at home and I'm with my daughter. I'm going to be with my daughter. And that's actually the advice I give to any dad as well. It's always like, if they ask me, they say, what advice could you give me as a parent? I'd be presence. Just be present, and even when you're not, make sure that they know that you are.
Yeah, and it is mate, I reckon that's absolutely right. I remember with Jack, so we took him to a paediatrician because we were a little bit concerned about a couple of things as he was developing, and it was more physically rather than emotionally or mentally.
Yeah.
And interestingly, this guy said to us that he was showing, this was at 2 or something, I think it was, that he might have even been younger, he was showing early signs of ADHD.
Right.
And like I just, as soon as he said that, I just switched off straight away.
Yeah.
I just thought, man, this is, fucking ludicrous.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I was thinking at the time.
I think I've got it.
Pause.
Don't get me started on that thing, mate. We won't stop. Can you imagine doing this beers? Yeah.
So then, as a result of that, I sort of thought to myself, we're not going down this path.
Yeah.
Of having a kid that's diagnosed at that age and on medication and all the rest of it. I went through that later, with a slightly older child in my care with my ex Lizzie. I don't know whether you met Lizzie.
Don't think I did.
South African Lizzie, beautiful girl, and her son Cody. But there were a number of things that I did as a result of that, and one of them was just to go and educate myself. So I found all of the information I could on, countering or dealing with the side effects of, hyperactivity, including finding out if there were, things that certain individuals were sensitive to in food and their environment and so on and so forth. And as a result of that, changed, Jax's diet, changed the way, he functioned at home, meaning television and, other bits and pieces as well, outside stimulation. And funnily enough, on the very first morning that, he had a new diet and we changed his bread, we changed his peanut butter, we eliminated emulsifiers, additives, etc., he was already a different kid. So, I think it's really, really easy for people to hand the problem to somebody else and say, okay, you fix it. And people are happy to pop a pill, even though that's not doing them any favours either.
No.
Yeah. So, I don't know how exactly I got onto that. But, yeah, I think as a parent, being present, sitting there, spending that time with them. I used to find if I'd spend an hour with him doing Lego, then that was all I needed to do in order for him to be happy spending time on his own.
Yeah.
He was just so much more settled.
Yeah.
So it was just a peek into, what are the benefits of having that 100%, engagement with my son in the moment, enjoying what he's enjoying, and him knowing that I'm there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was just always, a better kid as a result of that.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting. There's sort of, I don't know, it's how my interpretation of it or how I look at it. And I feel like there's almost two things. I look at it a way like presence is one aspect. And I was going to bring it up before when we were talking about when people are expressing themselves and sitting with someone like as a you've got a patient or whether it's just sitting like we're doing now. I always feel and have felt that, and I don't know if this is right, but there's a need for connection, and that could almost come by way of being present. But I look at connection as whatever that person's feeling when someone is, or if I'm expressing myself, whether it's my deepest and darkest moments or whether I'm my happiest and my peak, it's always sharing that and feeling connected with another person. It's there's some form of healing, or there's something in there where I think that connection is such an important part. And then I think there's the other part to that. How I look at it, I sort of have connection and then presence. And it's funny, I'll come back to my kids with this, but presence is almost a thing I look at. Once you've had that feeling, then I feel like you've got to take action and do something, or you just indulge and stay in that feeling. But I feel like the act of doing something, I feel like with presence, there's something in it, and I can relate it to someone just supporting you with that next move of whatever you're going to do, knowing that they're there, that if you fall, fuck up, do whatever, they're there for me, they're going to support me. And I look at that in a way like, when you're young and your mates and you get into a fight and then there's a guy that just comes in from nowhere and he'll back you up in a fight. That guy is like your new best mate forever. And there's whatever it is, you just have now shared this bond where that guy, that's like a physical form of presence right there, where he's somewhat put his life on the line. He's come in and he's supported you. And there's this innate bond now between you and that guy. Probably you never even knew him before. And so it's funny.
And you just got a nutter in your life.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No. But I look at it like every day when I train, I go and have my little moment, and I'll after I'm at the beach and I'll sit there and I think about my kids, and it's funny what keeps coming up. So I've got a little girl and a little boy, and with Chloe, it's funny. The thing that comes up with me is like it's connection. Concentrate on connection with her, and she just wants to connect, and I feel it's different with Teal, and when it comes up with him, it's presence. Just be present with him, and I'd have to sort of think about how to distinguish both of those.
So is it for him that he just needs to know that you're there?
Yes.
You don't necessarily need to engage in the same way.
No, I don't need to.
So her, she's like zeroing in.
And wants to hug and wants to like, and I don't know if there's a bit of like feminine and masculine energy going on there with what that is, and that's a way to probably differentiate the two, presence and connection. Ultimately, they're probably the same thing, but 100%, Chloe is just. It's all about affection. She just wants that nurturing, that caring, and
I wonder if that's also you as well. You know what I mean? Whether that is that fatherly instinct as well with their daughter.
Yes.
To be that softer, gentler, cuddly, and then with your boy, it's like, come on, son,
100%.
Up you get.
Even at a really young age, at such a young age, it's like so with Chloe, everything was like, hey, darling, oh my darling, like this, and then. Right. When my boy was like 1 or 2, I'd be like, oi, boy, oi. Like, my whole tone and everything at him would change.
Yeah.
And it was funny when, even somewhat now, but like if Teal walks into the kitchen and I'm not in the room and I hear him, I go, what are you doing, darling? And he's like, Dad, it's me. And I'm like, sorry, mate. It's so funny. It's so funny. But,
and it is funny too, because, one of the things that I do all the time, and like I'll often say to Michael, when I get home, how are you, darling? and for me, there's actually something really masculine about actually, saying that.
Yes.
Just not caring.
Yeah.
He knows that I care about him. He knows
that
he's
your bitch.
Yeah, exactly right. It is a funny thing though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like how you're not as worried about those things.
Yes.
As we grow up, and it takes time.
It does. Yeah, being comfortable.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. But I definitely get what you mean.
Yeah. So that's just something I try to concentrate on with both the two kids, and or one of many.
I think I was thinking earlier, you reminded me of the Swedish proverb that says that happiness shared is happiness doubled, and sadness shared is sadness halved. So
I like that one, mate. I haven't heard that.
Just the importance of no matter what it is that you're going through, it's actually beneficial to share it.
Yeah.
We are social creatures.
Yes.
That's how we survive. We're designed so that we can't actually procreate.
Yes.
The species doesn't survive if we don't connect.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
So
tell us about Walk and Talk, because that's a great segue. So why did you start? Tell us about it.
Well, I mean, this may or may not come as a surprise, but I was sitting, so it was only my first year in uni. And, I'd actually done, sort of walk and talk sort of style things with my gym, clients.
Of course.
And in groups as well as, individually.
Yeah.
So this, sort of thing had already been part of, but to me it just sort of made sense that there was now another layer.
Yeah.
And another opportunity. But one thing that really, I guess was a motivating factor, I think I put down a few different points, and it was funny when this idea popped into my head, I'd had a couple of, those 500ml cans, those
what are they called?
Germans, the O-tingers.
Yeah.
So I'd had a couple of those, tinnies. And it was a Thursday night, I actually remember.
Yeah.
And I drafted an email. One of them was to council, Sam Hughes, who looks after Active and Healthy, wonderful lady. And the other one was Dr. Deb, who was the program director of counselling at Griffith University.
Right.
In the School of Applied Psychology. So I drafted this email, and I just put down all these points that I thought, made this a no-brainer, like we've got to make this happen.
Yes.
And, one of them was to provide practicum opportunities for students, which was really, really hard to do, particularly with the whole COVID thing going on.
Oh, 100%.
So we'd lost those. The other one was a research opportunity. The other one was to provide something that people could actually afford. Because, gap fees, even if you've got private health, you could be looking at anywhere between $150 and $200 to go and see a psych or a counsellor, or whatever the case may be.
100%.
So really, it's sort of becoming a case that if you want to get quality mental health, service or support, that you only get that, or what you need
Yeah.
if you're wealthy
Yeah.
or if you check in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a case of, you know, I actually couldn't believe that nobody had done it.
Mm.
So, you know, where does an idea come from?
It's a solution to a problem.
Yeah, but I mean, it was, and you know, why did it pop into my head? You know, it could have popped into anyone's head.
Yeah.
So yeah, and ironically, two people, two institutions that very rarely respond within a week, let alone 24 hours, responded to my email, probably within 12 hours.
Wow.
So I thought, okay, you know, definitely on the right track here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's is it $5? Is that how?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so tell me about it. Like, so they catch up with one of the practitioners.
Yeah. So basically, what we do is we provide an opportunity for the university students. So whether they're from the counselling cohort or the psychology cohort.
Yep.
So we've got Griffith University as well as the Australian University College of Applied Professions.
Yes.
So their students come and do their practicum with us.
Yep.
And under supervision, they will see members of the public one-on-one.
Yep.